Welcome. Today we are in the club. I am your host, Chris Jaeger, joined by KC Smurthwaite, joining us from athletics admin in the role of athletics and higher education revenue consulting.
That is correct. Other duties is assigned. Unfortunately, assistant to the regional manager was taken, so I wasn't able to get that title at all. I'm working towards it.
One day. So, KC, I mean, we've crossed paths over the last couple of years, originally crossing paths in the branding world, but you've had a few different roles across your 15 plus years in higher ed, from fundraising to donorship, athletics, licensing, and branding. How do you find yourself now in a new journey with athletics admin, and what is athletics admin all about?
Well, first I need to say thanks for having me, and it's been great getting to know you over these years. We were joking earlier that I kind of stopped in the middle of it and went, is this the first time we've met? This is real.
The first in-person meeting after, oh my goodness, what, 3-4 years?
Oh, I think we're pushing 5, brother.
Yeah.
I think we're pushing 5. I mean, at this point, I think we should just go get, a townhome together. Let's have some pancakes and, do something. No, this has been great. Thanks for having me on. It's been a journey.
Sure.
And I think the biggest thing for me is trying to find a great balance of that work-life balance, but I've been able to have and been very, very much afforded the opportunity to get my hands dirty in a lot of different areas.
Sure.
I mean, essentially, I was an 18-year-old, basically who had shoulder problems, knee problems, that was essentially cut from a college baseball team. I redshirted all that, but I knew where that end goal was, and I was grateful to have an athletic director, a head baseball coach, and an HR person who all called me into a meeting, and I thought I was going to get kicked out of the university. As an 18-year-old, you're worried about all these things. And,
sure.
Next thing I know, they're offering me a job inclusive of coaching and corporate partnerships, and it just kind of took off from there. But kind of where it's ended is being able to have my hands dirty in a lot of different areas, and that touches a lot in higher education, athletics, and revenue opportunities. And it's kind of bled into from where we first started in licensing and branding when I was the LD for Southern Utah University. And that's kind of grown into doing a lot of revenue projects for a lot of different institutions and basically a consultant now.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. It's awesome. I love it. I wake up and I get an opportunity to be paid to make sure that people are generating revenue, student athletes are being taken care of, and at the end of the day, students in general are appreciating their university more, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
That's outstanding, and I mean, I think of the relationships you've built in that 15 plus years too, and for yourself, you've spent a lot of time out in the Utah region, so different institutions out that way. I'm sure you see that bleed over, where you're going from SUU, Utah State, you name it, there's all sorts of different communities that you're engaging with, and I'm confident that there's a bleed over at times where there's familiar faces you'll come across.
There's always familiar faces, especially in the state of Utah. I think that's kind of, nothing wrong against the state of Utah. The lovely Beehive State would love to leave if the opportunity came up, but my wife and I were really happy where we're at.
I mean, it's great out there. I've gone out there a couple times the last few years, and amazing community.
I'm surprised you left. I thought you were going to stay. I thought we sold you, on staying. No, it's there's a lot of overlap, and especially in my role as I represent a lot of different institutions. Even within the state of Utah that I'm counting this out, technically I have collected a paycheck from 4 institutions in the state of Utah. And even as a revenue consultant or in higher education marketing branding, I mean, every school's different. And here soon is going to be, the Utah State and Hawaii play together in different sports at different times. And it gets awkward because I would say that's 1 and 1A in terms of folks who hire me often to do projects for them or teach. And people are looking, who's he going to cheer for? Well, I guess they'll find out if I ever show up to the game. I try to stay out of that game and just kind of watch from home. But yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and especially when you're talking about the higher ed world, very small. Yeah. But at athletics admin, we're from Honolulu, Hawaii to Spartanburg, South Carolina, to even down the road in Romeoville, Illinois.
I love it.
It's a little bit of everything. Orem, Utah Valley, Flagstaff, Arizona, and we have another 5 or 6 schools that are going to be onboarded here in the next 3 months. especially in 2025. So I'm really excited with where we're at and where we're going. But at the end of the day, it's about others. It's about the students. It's about the student athletes and creating those experiences and, really improving lives. And to be quite honest, I want to do it at an affordable price.
Sure.
When you hear the word contract or consultants, you think, oh, these suit and tie, and I guess I'm in a tie here, but we're going to skip past that there, Chris.
You got the quarter zip.
Yeah, the quarter zip. So a little mix of business and athletic feel, I guess.
Hey, so as someone that lives in the branding world, you got to have layers and have that ability to brand how you need.
Exactly. So, I see the word consultant and how you think of 20, 30 years of experience. Obviously, I'm not there yet. I look good for my age, I guess, but it's to the point where I want to make sure I'm affordable, and the other consultants with us in athletics admin, we're affordable.
Sure.
We want to make sure that we're giving back, because I think that's really ultimately it. I see a lot of these projects that some of these, big name brands are taking on, and I also hear what they're paying, and it doesn't cost that much. It just doesn't. And that's taking away from the students. It's taking away from the student athletes. And that's something that we really want to be passionate about. We want to be a student-centered consultant group. And by extension, that's an institution-centered consultant group.
I love that, a student-centered consultant group. And you think through, the core values and those things that'll separate you in your own industry, in your own field. I mean, that's got to be one of those things that just is a differentiator for you.
Yeah, it's not about the, hey, how much you can pay me? How much am I going to get?
Right.
What can I get? It's what are the quantifiable tasks and what does success look like? I mean, I love asking those questions of when I'm engaged from a university, or even there's a nonprofit there's two nonprofits that I also work with that are looking to enhance their, revenue operations.
Right.
They're looking to enhance maybe their brand, or an institution reaches out from their athletics department saying, hey, you have experience in X, Y, and Z. Can you help us complete A, B, and C? And I love asking that question is, what does success look like? And everybody has different answers, but I also want to start at the end in sight, because too often I think you have people working towards a project and they have success or goals that look differently. And so when they get to the end, one side's going, oh, hey, great, high five, we did it. Yeah. In reality, the other side's going, hey, we're not there yet. And I think asking that question of what does success look like? Is it we want to get $25,000 in revenue? Is it we want to have an engagement, or we want to drive attendance at this amount? Is it quantifiable? Okay, let's work backwards from that point. And I think that's also kind of where we have our sweet spot. A lot of these institutions that we work with are not your Notre Dames, your even, Florida, Miami, Texas, Oklahoma, these name brand schools, which is fine. That's not us.
Sure.
We want to go in where we can actually make an impact, and we can actually say, hey, here's the quantifiable numbers that you have defined as success. Let's work backwards, and we're going to make a game plan to get you there. And then after it, we're going to look back and go, let's do it again. That was a great experience for us. It's a great experience for the students. It's a great experience for the student athletes. We want to do this again.
I love that question. What does success look like, and building backwards from there? That's exactly what we as a company do when we tackle branding projects. Is we'll start with what's that experience you're trying to create, and then we'll talk about how you get there. Ultimately, you got to know where you're going in order to figure out how to get there.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that I love that's the mindset that you have, and how your clients define success ultimately creates the opportunity for you to achieve their targets.
Absolutely.
So when you think through, what are those ideal opportunities you're looking for? Are there certain things you hear when someone's trying to define success that you're like, I'm a great match for what they're trying to do? Are there certain things you're looking for?
Absolutely. And I've even said no to some of these opportunities, because it's like, hey, I love that you're interested, but over here is probably a better fit for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that. I mean, it's kind of, what is it, a Miracle on 34th Street?
Yeah.
We're going retro right here.
I mean, tis the season right now.
Tis the season, is that they send them across to Macy's, to the other store. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
It's finding that sweet spot of something, again, that is quantifiable, that is going to make an impact. And in the day-to-day, and sometimes some people will say, oh, that's too negative, you're thinking too negative, is I want to find what that success looks like and work backwards. Even like game planning. Like I coached for a couple of years at the Division I and junior college levels. When you're coming up with an opponent, you get the scouting report. I mean, half the time, and I love showing halfway through the year to our players of, hey, this is the scouting report on you. Slide that over. And their eyes get big. Like, they know what the analytics, and this was years ago. I mean, we're going almost, it's been a while. Oh, don't like the passage of time. But anyways, I'm sure it's even more so now. Yeah. But being able to, as a coach, hand that scouting report on yourself or on your own players, and for your players to go through it, they see what their tendencies are on a 0-1 count, a 1-1 count, a 2-1 count. They know if somebody shifted over here or what type of, how many outs there are, and their eyes get big and they go, oh, whoa, you know. But the same thing goes, and we take that game plan over into athletics admin. We want to know the game plan. We're going to then work backwards. How are we not going to lose? How are we not going to have success? Well, we won't have success if we don't get people at the game. All right, let's start to make a game plan. So all of a sudden, we're now having A, B, and C plus 1A, 1B, 1C, all these different options and scenarios that we've already played out in our head and also on paper, that just in case if it does happen, no problem. We've already planned for this. And, you know, if
you got to have those pivots.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. And you've got to be nimble. And I think that's also what makes great coaches, and also that we try to apply it at athletics admin is, hey, something happened. Great. We've already game planned for this. We are ready to adjust. We are ready to go to, hey, our number one game plan is not working out. We can't run the ball against these guys. Let's start, play action pass. Let's start to do little dump offs. We can pivot quickly. We've been there. We've done that. And we're only growing. And that's the fun thing. And we want to make sure we're finding those unique opportunities that we can find success. We can drive revenue. We can build out a brand. We can build out a brand experience. But we're doing it with a game plan, with a strategy.
Sure. And I think, one of those elements of your game plan when you talk about an athletics department is the donor relations side of athletics. And, through following you through the years, you've got a motto that I've seen you use plenty of times, don't copy and paste donorship. And I think it's one of those things that we talked about today. You want to create an experience for these folks that are supporting your programs, that are giving to drive that experience for the students at the end of the day. And so how do you think through that? How do you, build a reputation on thinking outside the box and that motto of don't copy and paste? And what drives that for you? Where does that come from?
Well, I don't like normal. I have to, as Dr. Paulson, who works with us at Athletics Admin, has reminded me gently a few times, let's just call it expanding the box. Sometimes the box. And she is right, but I also think it depends on who the client is and what type of project. But to the overall aspect of don't copy and paste donor stewardship, don't copy and paste your donor cultivation, is because every person we work with, every institution is different. There is truly no one size fits all.
Yeah.
Now there's hats that say one size fit most, and that game plan can work at a lot of places. But what works in Honolulu with a donor, or even in a revenue experience, isn't probably going to work in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It might not even work in Cedar City, Utah. Who knows? But we've got to make sure that we make those customized, tailor-made game plans in order to maximize our success. Now, the nice thing is we have great data points. We have a huge sample size on what works. Now, going back to that donor aspect of it, not every donor, I'm sure there's going to be some fundraisers that cringe, but specifically some donors who might cringe at this. You can't treat the $5 donor differently than the $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 donor. You just can't. But what drives me nuts, and especially early on in my fundraising career, is finding those little trinkets that you send out as a thank you.
Yeah.
That you send out, hey, they donated, boom, we're going to put it out there, get it off to our stewardship coordinator, and it's all the same. And I remember we did something for a football game, and we put together these little packets. We put them on the chairs, and depending on where they were sitting, if they were in the higher end seats, they had a couple of different knickknacks in there. And I remember walking by the dumpster after the game. It was a victory. Everybody was happy, but I was ticked because I was walking by the dumpsters.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw basically everything we did in there. And it just was one of those light bulb moments of, why are we doing the same thing for everybody? Now, there are some things you do. Yeah. But as soon as it gets to that 5, 10, 25,000, whatever level you're at, again, a junior college would probably think $100 or $1,000, depending on the type of school,
sure,
is great. But that's where you have to go back to your data points. Where's your giving bands? And your higher end folks are going to probably buy or can buy anything that they want.
Yep.
So it's more of that experience. It's that high touch. And when you can start to,
how do you make them feel seen?
Exactly.
And heard,
Make them feel special. And there's extreme value in differentiation. And when they get that custom jersey with their last name on it that only they have, like it costs like $90. Like I'm willing to take the $90 if we're talking about a ratio here. I know it doesn't work like that on the finance side, but if they're giving us $5,000-$10,000, yeah, I'm going to do a custom glove if they're donated to the baseball or softball program.
Sure.
But it again starts in the donor cultivation. I've even gotten my hair cut at some random Great Clips in Twin Falls, Idaho, because that's where a donor who we couldn't get a hold of at all for years. And the best way that I could get a hold of him, and he and his wonderful wife turned into $100,000 donor. The only way I was able to track him down was because I took a picture and got a haircut at his place on my way back home to visit my parents for the holidays.
That is amazing.
Like that's it. And now he is one of the best and most consistent donors that this institution has. That's it. But and also on the versus on the other side is just trying to find ways to get a hold of people.
Yep.
But also make them feel special. There's a lot of ways that people donate. There's a lot of ways that you could say thank you.
Yeah. And I love that story of getting the haircut there and getting the picture with it, your receipt, if you will.
Yes.
It's one of those things we talk about all the time. And with the rise of LinkedIn in particular, it's something that I think is such an opportunity for folks to share how they're connected to whatever group you're engaging with, especially if you're in any sort of sales role.
Yes.
Like you've got the opportunity to show you're engaged, you're a part of this community that you're engaged with. Take advantage of that. And I love that. I love that is exactly the result you got out of doing that.
Well, and that's the desired result, right? But here's the other thing. I would imagine 70% of the time that doesn't work. It could have been just an ignored. But
you also have to have someone on the other end that engages.
Communication
with it.
works both ways. It's the sender, it's the receiver, and also how is the receiver? How do they receive the message? They might think, hey, that was kind of creepy.
You mean it comes down to knowing the personality and getting to know the relationship?
Something about that. And,
Imagine that.
Oh my gosh, we can call this right now. The podcast over. We've solved a lot of the world's problems. But it's just kind of like dating almost. You need to kind of understand who you're working with. And,
absolutely.
For the record, that donor in particular, I kind of mentioned earlier, nobody could get a hold of.
Yeah.
Like, so I ended up trying to go up the pipeline of, okay, well, let's do a little high risk, high reward here. I'm going to go get my hair cut. Monica was wonderful. She gave me a great cut, gave me 10% discount because she thought I was a student, felt good. But, that selfie went a long ways.
Yeah.
And even on the backside of it is, how did we say thank you?
Yeah.
It was getting a golden set of clippers with a little engraving.
That's amazing.
It's
a little
things.
touch.
It's absolutely. And, I never, I did leave this institution before, but, we were working on, it was a gentleman who flipped, burial sites. What's the word I'm looking for? It's,
like a graveyard?
Yeah, graveyard. Yeah. He had his own, he would flip it in with burial plots. We'll just say the creative process of thinking that type of a donor was a little bit different than maybe somebody who was running an engineering company or a massive.
No way.
Just a little bit different. But those are the type of things that you want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to wear this or have this with pride.
Yeah.
We did custom bobbleheads was one of my favorites. And
I love a good bobblehead.
Oh my gosh. That's something they're not going to throw away because their face is on it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something they're going to hold on to. Those are the little things. Those are the experiences, especially at Athletics Admin, that we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to be ingrained in the institution. It sometimes catches some people off guard. They're like, hey, wait a second. I thought a consultant was a little bit more, out there. No, we want to be in there. We want to be known. We want to be in the meetings. Now, if they don't want us in there, we're not going to. But at the end of the day, we want to augment anything that's being done already within the department. We want to know the vernacular. We want to know the jargon of what's going on here so we can also help share their story. And, oh, by the way, we have some great ways to experience and enhance and generate revenue for you. And, yeah, we're going to be a part of the process. We're going to roll up our sleeves, and we do it differently, and we're proud of that.
You'd almost say you're playing chess, not checkers.
That is one of my, that's good. We love playing chess, not checkers. No offense to anybody who plays checkers, but
my 8-year-old might take that up with you.
Okay. You set up the time, we'll play virtually if needs be. But if your 8-year-old, I want him to hear it from me that I'm going to come straight. I'm going to come visit, direct from Domingo. We're going to go, direct and play chess. But yeah, I think chess and checkers, checkers, you just have those lateral, forward, little diagonal movements that you're really thinking maybe one or two steps ahead. But when you get to that chess piece, what's that next step?
Yeah.
And you've got to really play the long game. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a couple of pawns, get the rook or, the queen or the king and all that. And eventually you get to a place where it's checkmate. But it's the overall process of getting to that point.
And you mentioned playing the long game, and it's a phrase that we hear often within our own walls where we're working within higher education, and for the sake of describing higher education, you're playing the long game. It is always relationships. It is making sure you're being a good steward to all the folks across campus, and it takes time.
It does.
There's no way around that. So I love the fact that that's actually the phrase you use, because we hear it all the time here.
Long game, chess, not checkers.
Yes. And I love the strategy behind it. You have to be thinking moves ahead, and you have to be able to pivot and be able to provide those solutions to your clientele.
And they all come in different ways, shape or forms. And, utilizing even that chess, not checkers, from a coaching standpoint, I knew what other teams' budgets were.
Right.
It's just like in the scouting report, you see those behind the scenes NFL draft. They have positions to scout the opponent's teams. They have positions to build out the draft boards. They know where the salary caps are. The same thing goes when I was coaching, that we had to do things differently. It was a little bit of a Moneyball approach, where I knew that this
Great
school,
movie, by the way.
elite. You know that this school has X amount of scholarships. You know what their budget is. And yeah, they went out and they recruited pretty heavily on some of these 3 or 4 players, but they blew a lot of their money. I knew I had no chance with them, but I knew I was in conversations with them. So I'm going to drive up the price. I'm going to make sure that they start to spend, because then I know towards their end of their junior or senior year, I'm going to be able to pick them off for a lot cheaper. And also for, against the school that actually wants them, but has already blown their money, chess, not checkers. I'll start.
Sure.
You want tuition fees, books, and a little bit more? Okay. Yeah, no problem. Because I know they're going to end up going to that bigger school. I know it's not a fit, but that's kind of that next step of playing that chess, not checkers.
Now, chess, not checkers, when it comes to revenue generation, like what's a good example of how you've navigated that?
Yeah. Chess, not checkers in revenue generation. You'll like this, especially from a branding standpoint. And I get always these weird looks. I think I got one from Heidi Adams at Utah State. Shout out to
Heidi.
Yep. And Heidi, we got you. But chess, not checkers in a revenue generation standpoint example would be, as a fundraiser, I did this a little bit at Utah State. That's where the idea kind of came, moved to Southern Utah, and now kind of implementing it at other institutions that, need some help through athletics admin. But at SUU, called COVID. It was tough to get a hold of people. It was tough to even get them on a Zoom call.
I got a hold of you during that time.
I had the wrong number. I blocked the wrong number, Chris. But
it's the only 815 number calling.
Yeah. Let me write that down. No, that chess, not checkers aspect of the revenue generation was, okay, I can't get a hold of these people.
Right.
Okay. There's a roadblock. So like chess, instead of checkers, we're just going to go, we're going to create and go detours. We have to find those detours around the roadblocks. So what I did was, I'm going to go create the cheapest, but also coolest shirt of all time, and maybe a neon color. Actually, I think I did a Thunderbird head that was, off to the side, enlarged, had kind of that chrome silver on it. I mean, when I say cheapest shirt, it was not a cheap shirt, because I did a little extra on it because I wanted people to wear it.
Sure.
Well, we still had some events on campus. You know what the crazy thing was? All the people I sent that shirt to would wear it to games. I didn't recognize them, but I recognized that shirt, that I was, hey, I know I'm supposed to know you. I don't know you, but you took the mailer and you're wearing my shirt that I sent you.
And that's proof of concept.
It's a proof of concept. So that's chess, not checkers. Instead of like, hey, let's try to have a little donor appointment. Let's go meet at this place. Or no, you don't want to. What about a Zoom? Or if you could shoot me a call and we can chat. Very impersonal. They're doing something on the background. Okay, okay. There's somebody crying in the background. Okay, you got to go. Okay, I understand. Well, all right. I'm gonna now develop a hat.
Sure.
For that next round. Hey, these are the next 20 that I haven't been able to touch. All right. So this one I'm going to do, maybe we're going to have a pink game coming up. So I'm going to do maybe a neon pink, with the cool logo on front. And under the guise of, hey, it's a pink game, I can kind of do something a little bit more neon pink that's going to pop. So now all of a sudden we're outside of COVID and we have a full stadium. We got 15, 20,000 folks there. This is easy. I'm going to go right to the top. I'm going to start to point out, pink hat with my design. I'm going to start to work through the sections. All of a sudden, boom, I'm there. I'm now talking to them. And generally speaking, it was usually the wife wearing that. And it was great to also enhance. So much is focused on the male-centric in fundraising, especially in sports. Can we expand and get to know them? Like this and do things around with the coaches' wives. That's another aspect of it. Not to go down into the chess, not checkers, but I was then able to go on to that next 5 or 10. And then that list is starting to get smaller and smaller. Then all of a sudden, being a one-man show in terms of fundraising, and it's a huge team effort, but when we were on a hiring freeze, I had to get pretty creative. Or, hey, I know where your seat is. I'm going to put, something on your envelope of, hey, text this number. And it was like some burner number that I had, you've won a prize. And they're, and it's like, oh, darn. Well, come find me in section C 113, row, and I will have something for you. And boom, there's another aspect of that chess, not checkers, that helps drive revenue generation.